To order, and I want to welcome to the committee Mr. Rennie Arsenault with the government side, and Madame Lila Goodrich joining the committee today. I call the meeting to order and welcome to meeting number 8 of the House of Commons Standing Committee on Human Resources, Skills and Social Development and Status of Persons with Disabilities. Today's meeting, as you know, is taking place in a hybrid format pursuant to the House Order of November 25th, 2021. Given the ongoing pandemic situation and in light of the recommendations from the health authorities as well as the directive of the Board of Internal Economy of October 19, 2021, to remain healthy and safe, all those attending the meeting in person are asked to maintain 2-meter physical distancing, must wear a non-medical mask when circulating in the room, and is highly recommended that the mask be worn at all times, including when seated. Must maintain proper hand hygiene by using the provided hand sanitizer. As the chair, I will enforce these measures for the duration of the meeting, and I thank you for your cooperation. To ensure an orderly meeting, I would like to outline a few rules to follow. Members and witnesses may speak in the official language of their choice. Interpretation services are available for this meeting. You have the choice at the bottom of your screen of either Floor, English, or French. If interpretation is lost, please inform me immediately and we will ensure proper interpretation is restored before resuming the proceedings. The raised hand feature at the bottom of the screen can be used at any time if you wish to speak or alert the chair. For members participating in person, proceed as you usually would when the whole committee is meeting in person in a committee room. Keep in mind the Board of Internal Economy's protocols. Before speaking, please wait until I recognize you by name. If you are on the video conference, please click on the microphone icon to unmute yourself. Those in the room, your microphone will be controlled as normal by the proceedings verification officer. When speaking, please speak slowly and clearly. When you are not speaking, your mic should be on mute. A reminder that all comments by members and witnesses should be addressed through the chair. With regard to a speaking list, the committee clerk and I will do the best we can to keep the consolidated order, which I have been provided by all members. Pursuant to Standing Order 1082 and the motion adopted by the committee on Monday, January 31st, 2020, the committee will commence a briefing on the ministerial mandate letters. I would like to welcome our witnesses to begin your discussion with 5-minute opening remarks followed by question. Welcome Minister Gould, Minister of Families, Children and Social Development, and departmental officials, Cliff Groen, Senior Assistant Deputy Minister, Catherine Adams, Senior Assistant Deputy Minister, Janet Golding, Associate Assistant Deputy Minister, Laurie McDonald, Senior Associate Deputy Minister, Annette Gibbons, Associate Deputy Minister. We will start with Minister Gould for 5 minutes, please. Minister Gould, you have the floor.
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon to you and honorable colleagues. It is an honor to serve Canadians as the Minister of Family, Children and Social Development. I won't go through and list all of the officials. You did that already, but I'm delighted to be joined by senior officials from ESDC who will be supporting me today. This is my first meeting with your committee, and I look forward to working with all members and fellow parliamentarians in delivering on the priorities set out in my mandate letter. Je commencerai en parlant de l'engagement de notre gouvernement à soutenir les familles.
I begin with our government's commitment to support families with young children. For those families, access to high-quality, affordable, flexible, and inclusive child care is not a luxury, it's a necessity. That is why we have signed bilateral agreements with 9 provinces and 3 territories to cut average fees for regulated early learning and child care spaces by 50% by the end of 2022.
Care more affordable. These agreements aim to create new childcare spaces and wage grids for early childhood educators. We are also working collaboratively with First Nations, Inuit, and the Métis Nation to ensure Indigenous children will have access to affordable, high-quality, and culturally appropriate early learning and childcare. In the coming months, we will be tabling legislation to enshrine in law the principles of a Canada-wide early learning and childcare system. Nous mettrons également sur pied un conseil consultatif.
In addition, we will establish a new National Advisory Council on Early Learning and Childcare to provide advice and serve as a forum for consultation on issues and challenges facing the sector. Mr. Chair, this historic initiative will help drive economic growth, increase parents, especially women's, participation in the workforce, build a more resilient economy, and ensure all children in Canada have the best possible start in life.
Purpose organizations, we have made significant progress in advancing Canada's social innovation and social finance strategy. Specifically, we are making it easier for them to access affordable financing through the Social Finance Fund. We are now assessing proposals submitted by potential wholesalers who will invest the fund's capital into intermediaries such as credit unions, community loan funds, and private equity firms. Additionally, we are helping social purpose organizations build their capacity to access social finance through the Investment Readiness Program. Il y a 6 mois, le ministère a lancé un appel.
6 months ago, my department launched a call for proposals to identify readiness support partners to provide funding to social purpose organizations to build skills and capacity to access social finance investment. We are currently finalizing these agreements. Together, these initiatives will provide social purpose organizations with a greater capacity to make a difference in the lives of Canadians. We are also moving forward with the Community Services Recovery Fund to help charities and not-for-profits adapt to the challenges they face from the pandemic.
The department launched a call seeking national funders to efficiently distribute this fund to diverse organizations across Canada. The call is open until February 22nd, and the department will select the best projects in the coming months. And now, as we celebrate Black History Month, I am so proud of our efforts to recognize the contributions of Black Canadians. Through the Supporting Black Canadian Communities initiative, we are working to identify and address the significant and unique challenges, as well as the systemic barriers faced by Black communities in Canada. Budget 2021 provided an additional $100 million in this fiscal year to help grassroots organizations build capacity. La pandémie nous a permis de constater combien nos programmes et
The pandemic has helped us realize just how vital our programs and benefits are to Canadians, no matter where they live. This is why Service Canada will continue to improve by modernizing its delivery model and upgrade its IT systems. I want to thank the dedicated public servants who have been at the forefront of the Government of Canada's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. They have worked tirelessly to deliver much-needed benefits to Canadians.
The progress we've made in advancing our priorities, and I will be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Minister. I will now open the floor to questions, beginning with Madame Goodrich for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the Minister for her remarks earlier, and to all of the officials for being here. I know a lot of work goes into this. I think I will start out by, you touched on the 3,300 spaces for Indigenous. I was just wondering what work has actually been done, and have any agreements been signed?
Sure, and thank you, Ms. Goodrich, for the question. So beginning in 2017, our government signed agreements with the 3 national Indigenous organizations, the ITK for the Inuit, the AFN First Nations, the Assembly of First Nations, and the Métis National Council. We have since signed agreements with them and been working with them to support their efforts in delivering Indigenous early learning and childcare. It is distinctions-based. It is managed and run by Indigenous communities with funding through the federal government. In Budget 2021, we made this funding permanent on an ongoing basis and have also included an important increase based on inflation. And so we continue to remain in close contact and work to support the efforts of our national Indigenous organizations, but it will be led by them.
How many spaces have been created since these agreements were signed?
So we are looking towards creating 3,300 spaces. As you will know, that
3,300. But how many have been created as of today?
I'll turn to Catherine Adams to take that question.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. The number of spaces is slightly different in the context of Indigenous early learning and childcare. There are 3 current federal programs that Indigenous communities are using to deliver Indigenous early learning and childcare. There is an on-reserve Aboriginal Head Start program and an off-reserve Aboriginal Head Start program that serves urban and northern communities, as well as early learning and childcare programming that supports labor market participation and also training skills and training for Indigenous parents. In this context, quite often the programming is not full-time, 5 days a week or full day.
But in the mandate,
so the number of spaces are.
In the mandate letter, it says 3,300 new childcare spaces. I'm curious, how many of those new childcare spaces have been created to date? And if you don't actually answer, if you could table it to the committee, that would be spectacular.
Absolutely. We will endeavor to get that response back to the committee, and we will work with our partner departments on that.
Fantastic. And one of the other questions I have is how many spaces have been created today in the childcare deals across the provinces?
Well, Ms. Goodrich, as you'll know, 12 of these agreements have been signed within the last 12 months, which is quite significant, or in the last 6 months, sorry, which is quite significant. This is a program that was just announced a little less than a year ago and has come into fruition. And so we're working with our partners in the provinces and territories on their plans. But what has happened, including in your province already,
when will the agreements be made public?
Many of the agreements are already public. They are found on our website, and we'd be happy to share that with you and the committee members.
That's spectacular. And one of the pieces that I frequently get from constituents is what's going to happen after the 5-year mark. So we're spending money creating these spaces, but it's only for the first 5 years. So what's going to happen on year 6?
Well, you can reassure constituents that there is ongoing funding in the federal fiscal framework beyond year 5. But what's important to note is we're signing 5-year agreements because we have very specific objectives in place, and we want to work with our counterparts in provinces and territories to ensure that they can meet those objectives. And then we'll renegotiate agreements after the 5-year mark, but there is money earmarked within the fiscal framework on an ongoing basis.
Fantastic. And furthermore, in the mandate letter, it states that your aim is to have 40,000 new childcare educators. What is being done to train these educators, and how many have been trained to date?
So again, we have just signed 12 agreements within the last 6 months. So we're supporting our provincial and territorial counterparts as they work to do this. We know the only way that we can create more spaces is if we hire more ECEs. And so depending on the province or territory, they might be providing funding for training, for qualifications, for professional development. They may be increasing wages. So for example, in New Brunswick and Nunavut, they've put forward quite an aggressive increase in wages so that they can not only attract but retain ECEs. And we're working with all our partners at the provincial and territorial level to support them in these efforts.
My big thing, and you've heard this before, is a lot of people are concerned with the daycare deals because this is a promise that's been made and broken for decades by Liberal governments. And so how can we be assured that this will actually come to play?
Well, I think so long as we don't elect a Conservative government, because we had actually had this agreement in place back in 2005. And unfortunately, when Stephen Harper came into government,
trusted families to spend the money.
$120 a month does not make up for $1,200 a month in daycare fees. And we heard in the last federal election that the federal Conservatives would have done the same. So, we believe in this. We have signed agreements with 12 provinces and territories. We hope to have a 13th signed soon. So we're delivering, and families across the country are already seeing reduction in fees, including in Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Nova Scotia, and many others.
Madame Goodrich. We'll now go to Madame Ferrata for 6 minutes. Madame Ferrata.
Oui, merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to share my time with Tony van den Buyden, my colleague. I would like to thank you for coming today, Madam Minister. There's one question that interests me a great deal in your mandate letter, and that is a national food program in schools. I know that you're working with the Agriculture Minister on that. In Quebec right now, 70% of students do not eat enough fruits or vegetables. And nearly 17% of children live in a precarious situation. They don't know if they're going to get breakfast in the morning or any other meals for that matter. Perhaps you could tell me how important it is to make the commitment for these programs and how you're going to deal with this problem. Thank you very much for your question. This reminds me of my university years when I was a volunteer in a program in Montreal for children who went without breakfast. I think every child in Canada should have access to food that is healthy and provides the nutritional needs that a child requires. It's good for their mental and physical development. It is also one of the ways where we can fight poverty as well. And so it is a very important issue. I know that there are partners throughout the country who are very engaged in this initiative. Thank you. And I'm looking at the time fly. I see that there are a lot of coalitions throughout the country. Last year, in Sudbury, for example, there was an association that was asking for cooperation on a program. Do you think that there is going to be an openness to cooperate with all sorts of organizations and levels of government? Yes, cooperation with provinces and territories is essential. It's also important to recognize that there are various initiatives underway throughout the country. Some organizations and provinces are more engaged than others. It depends on their experience. It is important to know that regardless of where a child lives in this country, they will have access to the food that they need so that they can nourish their body and their mind. Thank you. I'll give the floor to my colleague now.
For the rest, 3 minutes.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you for coming today. I was very happy to see that your mandate has the commitment to develop a national school food policy and a national school nutritious meal program. My wife is a retired public school teacher, and she's seen all too often that for many children, their school is the only time or place where they do get a healthy meal. And many schools have developed programs on an ad hoc basis but they do not also have neighborhood associations to support these programs. In my riding of Newmarket Aurora, for example, Frank Stronach, the founder of Magna International, is developing the GUHA Way, and that stands for Growing Up Healthy and Happy, as a nonprofit organization dedicated to promoting healthy eating for children. And I know he's eager to see that he is able to support, if possible, rolling out the program. This is a very real issue, and I feel it's important. And since 1 out of 10 families and children across Canada would benefit from these programs. So, Minister, could you speak about how the program is being developed and how other organizations might also be able to get involved?
Well, certainly. So, I mean, there have been a number of consultations leading up to the inclusion of this in my mandate letter and that of Minister Bibeau. And I think that there is certainly an opportunity for organizations to share their ideas and feedback as we develop this policy further. I know there are many people who have been working in this space for a very long time, but what we also know, and certainly I experience in my own riding in Burlington, is that you have a lot of initiatives that are filling gaps, and they're doing that, and they're volunteer led, and they're making a difference. But I think what many have said, and I think what many probably across parties feel, is that there's a way to do this that will not just be gap filling, but will be more consolidated and more coordinated. And those are the things that we're looking for, and to make it, ensuring there's a nutritious meal, but also how we can make it inclusive as well.
Thank you. Minister, are you planning on working with provinces and territories? How do you plan to approach this when you're implementing the National School Food Policy and Program?
Well, I think we certainly have to work with provinces and territories on this, and it may be different depending on the province and territory that we work with, because as I mentioned, different provinces and territories are at different stages and have different programming in place. And so certainly we will be starting to have those conversations with provinces and territories, as well as the stakeholder community, because I think we have a real tremendous opportunity to make a lasting impact for kids right across this country.
Thank you, Minister. And Mr. Van Buyne, your time is up. Now we move to Madame Chabot for 6 minutes. Madame, you have the floor.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hello, Madam Minister. Thank you for coming to be with us today to explain the numerous mandates that were given to you by the Prime Minister. I'm not sure if this is going to be the order of priority that you want, but I will make a suggestion. You are the Minister responsible for Services Canada. Your mandate letter says very clearly that you were going to manage the implementation of the benefit systems that is going to be reliable for all Canadians, and to make sure that all Canadians have access to it regardless of where they live. As you know, there is a crisis at Services Canada right now, because they have to respond to the claims of all EI claimants, and they have been waiting for months and months. Last week, we had the opportunity to hear senior officials tell us it's nearly a normal volume and we shouldn't get too worried, and yet there are real cries for help, because there are standards of service. In fact, I'm not really sure what purpose they serve, because there are a lot of people who don't fall within these standards. So I have a question for you. Do you think that the system is currently efficient? You are the minister responsible for those services. Thank you for those questions, Madame Chabot. I'm very pleased to answer them. Let me start with a little update. But before that, let me reassure you that our priority is to ensure that all Canadians have access to the services offered by Services Canada within a reasonable time frame. Just a little update. As of last week, when the senior officials appeared before the committee, we were able to respond to the claims of 2,900 people who were on the list, and a lot of them are now getting their payment. I might add that the employees of Services Canada are doing an excellent job. We are dealing with a huge increase in claims. First of all, because it is winter, but also because there are a number of businesses that closed. I'm currently working with officials to make sure that we respond to the more serious cases. And I would also like to mention to everyone, all members of this committee, that if you know someone who really is having difficulty and does not fall within the standard framework, please call our office and get in touch with us. Well, thank you very much, Madam Minister. You did respond to part of the problem, which is the question of identity theft. But when I talked about efficiency, and I'm not talking about the people who provide the services at Services Canada, they are very good, but what is surprising is that there were some things that were predictable. Emergency measures, CERB and other measures. Obviously, you could expect an increase in claims, an unprecedented number. And yes, January and February are always difficult months. You could expect an increase in volume. And now we have thousands of people. If you're talking about people being hungry, well, yes, because there are people who are getting hungrier because they're not getting their money. What are you doing right now to provide some relief to 300,000 people who are living outside right now and are waiting for their benefits? Thank you very much. This is something that I take very seriously. And I just want to specify one thing. This year, we got 25% more claims to deal with than in the past, and it's because of the closures due to Omicron. So yes, we had planned for the increase in number of claims during normal times, but Omicron took us all by surprise. So it was a huge increase. At the same time, we increased the number of employees, the number of officers at our call center, in order to deal with this increase that we always get in the winter. We are organizing some internal resources to deal with the increased demand. The numbers that you presented are not necessarily accurate. Not necessarily everybody is waiting for their pay. Perhaps they've gone back to work. Perhaps their case was opened and then they discovered they didn't need to make a claim. But again, if you know someone who is outside of the service standards, please give us a call and we will do our best to serve them. Thank you very much, Ms. Chabot. Ms. Zarillo?
6 minutes.
Thank you and welcome, Minister. And I'm going to ask some questions about mental health today. So I spoke recently in this committee about 2 children whose lives were tragically cut short in my community. This pandemic has been hard on children and youth. I hear from parents regularly that they cannot access mental health support for their children. Either it's not available or what is available is too expensive. I note in the mandate letter it says to work with other ministers to ensure mental health supports are accessible for children and youth. That's been exacerbated through this pandemic. So my question is, in regards to children and youth, what is the plan to work with other ministries to ensure mental health supports are accessible to children and youth? A, given that it's provincial jurisdiction for the service delivery, and B, that there's multiple ministers that have this in their letters.
Well, thank you very much, Ms. Zarella, for that question. It is one that is incredibly important. And certainly as a minister responsible for children, I see and hear about it every single day. And I know that, we talk about the fact that our children are resilient, but gosh, this has been really hard on them, and we need to do everything we can to support them through it. One of the things that we've already done was provide support to the Kids Help Phone, about $8.5 million, I believe, in the last budget to support their initiatives. This is a lead from Minister Bennett, and so I am supporting her in those efforts and making sure the voices of children in particular are heard in this. A couple of things that our government has done already with regards to supporting mental health are creating the wellnesstogether.ca portal as well as the PocketWell app. And so you're absolutely right that mental health is within provincial jurisdiction, but there are initiatives that we can take to reach Canadians directly from the federal government, but we will absolutely be working with provinces and territories on this issue as well.
Thank you. And just to speak to those apps and just the access to information, and we know, broadband internet is not available in many of our rural communities. So I just wanted to ask a little bit about the disaggregated data and the way that information is being collected so that we can find the most vulnerable pockets and make sure that we're getting support to all these children and youth. So can you just share how is data being collected right now, and are there any learnings so far in regards to the impacts on children and youth of this pandemic on their mental health?
So I would probably have to defer that specific question to Minister Bennett because she is leading in that regard. But what I can say is that we are working to support her and the development of this strategy. And one of the things that I'm hoping to do is to get out there and speak specifically with children right across this country, because I think you raise a really important point about children in remote and rural areas. But we also know that access to broadband can be difficult if you are in a low-income family in downtown Toronto. We need to make sure that the services and the supports can reach every child, no matter where they are in the country and no matter what their family circumstances.
Thank you. And I'm just going to follow up on talking about low-income families. And we know that the price of food right now has many families stretched, families that were already stretched because wages are not as high as they should be in this country. I just wanted to talk about the National School Meal Program and ask if there is a timing or a time frame for this plan to get a program operating. Because right now in my community in Port Moody, Coquitlam, kids are going hungry every day.
Yeah, I hear you on this. And I've spoken with your colleague, Leah Gazan, the honorable colleague, on this a number of times as well. And so I'll look forward to working with you and all members as we move forward on this. Look, this is right at the beginning of this initiative, and we have work to do when it comes to engaging provinces and territories, and it comes to engaging stakeholders across the country. So I don't have a specific timeline for you, but I can tell you that I'm very committed to getting this done, but also getting it done right.
And I'll just ask about the community partners. So there are a number of community partners that have been doing this type of programming for a very long time through schools. I'm just wondering if this will also take into account those children that are going hungry that aren't at school. Is there plans in place to outreach outside of the schools?
It's a really good question, and it's something that I think we have to think about very carefully. Like, I know, for example, in my community, I have partners that provide meals in schools, and then there are partners that have meals to take home on weekends and over PA days and on winter breaks to make sure that children can eat even when they're not in school. And I think we saw very clearly during the pandemic how important school meal programs were, especially to children who don't have access to healthy food at home. And so these are all really good questions, and I would welcome the opportunity to talk to you further about them.
Right. I'm fine.
Thank you, Madame Zerillo. We'll now go to Madame Kusi for 5 minutes. Madame Kusi.
Thank you, Chair, and welcome, Minister. I'm going to continue on the line of questioning that my colleague, Madame Goodridge, had began on the daycare initiative. In my conversations with provincial counterparts, one of the greatest concerns currently is not only the rate of inflation in the nation, but unfortunately that the capped fee increases are at 3% a year, while inflation is currently at 5% a year. So, this certainly exists in the agreement in my home province of Alberta, or this concern around the agreement. And so I'm just wondering how you anticipate that provinces will deal with rising operating costs of inflation of 5% a year when you've capped the increase at 3% a year.
So I'm very pleased that we signed a historic agreement with Alberta. That's $3.8 billion that is going to help Alberta families. And in fact, we've already seen families in your province receive a 50% reduction in fees for licensed childcare. That's fantastic news, and that's going to be a game changer. And of course, with provinces and territories, we remain in dialogue with them. However, the 3% cap in fees is important, because we don't want people profiting off of public dollars when it comes to the provision of daycare services. And so this was really important to ensure the good and effective use of public funds.
But perhaps you could expand on why you did not decide to have the fee increase cap reflect the current inflation rate. Because, as I mentioned, it will leave operators holding the bag for the difference between the capped rate of 3% and whatever inflation continues to be. So I think to enter these partnerships, it doesn't really sound like you're coming from a place of good faith, that you're concerned that operators, the ones you are in fact entrusting to implement these programs and take care of the nation's children, that you're saying that you don't have good faith in them to provide them with the rate of inflation, whatever it might be, as opposed to the capped 3% rate that you've indicated.
We are primarily concerned with ensuring that there is good use of public funds. And, as someone who's in the Conservative Party of Canada, I would imagine that that's something that's very important for you as well. And we want to ensure that the funds that we send to provinces and territories are going towards service provision, that they're going towards high quality care, that they're going towards paying ECEs a fair and appropriate wage. So these are all things that are very important for us, and we want to ensure that those funds are being put to good use. And now we've worked very closely with the government of Alberta, and of course we came to an agreement that is good for Alberta and it's good for families in Alberta.
But unfortunately, Minister, I don't think your work is done as of yet with Alberta, as there still remains concern over the cost control framework, because Alberta, fortunately, unlike other provinces, their agreement allows for the expansion of these private spaces where Alberta and the federal government have agreed to. So, as I said, your work is not done. You still have to determine the cost control framework. So will you commit today to a thorough consultation in Alberta to start on the cost control framework, please?
We have really good agreements in place with provinces and territories right across the country, as the same was with Alberta. But the work continues with every province and territory. It's why we've put together an implementation committee for every province and territory. We are doing something completely new here. We are building a system, a Canada-wide system of early learning and childcare. This is exciting. This is great news for families. And we know that we're going to have to continue to work. And as I have shared with my counterpart in Alberta, with whom I have a great working relationship, we're going to continue to do that work together because we want to see this to be a success, no matter where it is in the country.
Well, thank you, Minister. I'm glad to hear that. And let me say, I know her better than you. I'll finalize by closing with my colleagues' concerns about getting this done. Your government didn't get this done in climate targets, in housing program targets. Your file specifically, proportional representation. The CCB is based upon the conservative model of the UCB. And frankly, I'm worried about your grandchildren paying off the debt and deficit, never mind having a space in daycare, Minister. Thank you very much.
Minister, a very short answer.
Well, I am very excited about the Early Learning and Childcare Initiative. I know the Conservatives wanted to scrap it just like they did in 2005. Fortunately, Canadians felt differently, and we are very excited to implement this. And families in Alberta and across the country are already seeing the benefits. That's progress.
Thank you, Minister, and thank you, Madame Kusi. Now to Mr. Collins for 5 minutes.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman, and welcome, Madam Minister. Always nice to see you. My questions are going to focus on the childcare plan as well. And we're neighbors back in the Hamilton-Burlington area. Our ridings are adjacent to each other. And I know that my constituents in Hamilton East Stony Creek were very excited about the $10 a day childcare plan in terms of the amount of resources that would they would save and money they would save and the savings that would accrue to families who had a child or children in the system. So I'm assuming your community was as excited as mine, and I was wondering if you could highlight today the amount of money that families in our area, in Southern Ontario, in the Burlington area, and in the Hamilton-Stony Creek area, might save as a result of the implementation of a $10 a day daycare plan.
Yeah, it's a great question, Mr. Collins. Thank you for it. And I can say that certainly families that I've heard from in Ontario are eagerly awaiting a childcare agreement. And unfortunately, they're the only families in Canada that don't have certainty about the reduction in fees this year and into the future. We are talking about hundreds of dollars a month. Families in Southern Ontario pay some of the highest rates in the country, and that can be anywhere between $1,500 and $1,800 a month, and in some cases higher. So you can just very well imagine that this is savings of, in some instances, hundreds of dollars a month. And we've committed to families across this country to see a reduction in fees by 50% by the end of this year. So in Hamilton, Burlington, Southern Ontario, that could be $600, $700 a month. That's quite significant.
Thanks, Minister. And the most common question, I think, from my constituents at the doors was, how soon will I see those savings? And I think you've highlighted today, and congratulations on the success across the country. I mean, we're just down to Ontario in terms of getting us across the finish line for everyone. I'm just curious, could you provide an update on those, on the talks with the province? I know that they've balked at the 5-year term, which you've secured with every other province and territory. They've balked at the dollar amount. I think it's over $10 billion over 5 years with no strings attached. And so a lot of red herrings out there. I hope this has nothing to do with the provincial election that's on the horizon. But if you could comment on the status of negotiations with the province, we'd appreciate that.
Certainly. So, our objective is to see families have a reduction of fees by 50% by the end of this calendar year, and to get to $10 a day by the year 25-26, as we've managed to achieve agreements in every other jurisdiction in Canada. Talks continue with the province of Ontario. Minister Lecce and I continue to engage. And I remain very clear that there is a very fair deal on the table for families in Ontario. $10.2 billion over 5 years. It's a lot of money, and it'll go a long way to making a big difference for many, many families here in Ontario. I would just like to add to that we are having positive conversations, but we do need Ontario to send us their action plan, because that is the basis for the agreement, and that is how we reached agreements with every other province and territory.
Thanks, Minister. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to cede the rest of my time to my friend and colleague, Mr. Coteau.
1.5 minutes, Mr. Coteau.
Oh, thank you so much, and thank you, Minister, for being here today. $10.2 billion is a lot of money for Ontario to take in to build a program. I represent a community that, there's large sections that the family income's under $50,000 per year. This is a huge game changer. As you know, the average, I think, in Toronto is $1,700 per month for childcare. I'd really like to know about the economic impact. There's always the what's good for families and children, but what is the economic impact for society as a whole from a program like this? We're going to have parents going back to work earlier. We're going to have early development for children. Have you done any type of study on the economic impact long-term for Canada?
Well, yes, and we have Quebec as an incredible model and example that we can draw from. We saw in Quebec that when they implemented affordable daycare, that they went from having the lowest female workforce participation in the country to having the highest. We estimate that if Canadian women choose to go to work at the same or are able to go to work at the same levels as Quebec women, that would add 240,000 workers to the workforce here in Canada. At a time of labor shortage, that's something that is quite significant. And, when you're choosing between going to work or paying for the high cost of daycare that may be the cost of your monthly salary, it's pretty difficult to go to work. So that's one benefit. The other one that I would say is this is a program that pays for itself. The revenue generated by increased tax revenues, by higher household incomes, by greater workforce participation actually outstrips the cost of the program. And that's what we've seen in Quebec. And in fact, when I spoke with my colleague, Minister Lacombe in Quebec, he said it's a no-brainer. It's something that's good for kids, it's good for families, and it's good for the economy.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Coteau. Now to Madame Chabot for 2.5 minutes. Madame Chabot.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will just conclude on the exchange that we had a little earlier. I would say that for the workers who pay employment insurance, expect to have some service and they expect their benefits in time. The answer I got does not reflect their needs, and it doesn't seem that there is any urgency. So I think there has to be a change in culture at Services Canada. In fact, that was part of the mandate in 2016, and I hope that you are going to make the changes now for the future. Now, $400 million is expected for the community recovery. I was wondering what the time frame was for the implementation of this recovery fund. How are the funds going to be spread out among the different provinces and territories? Because a lot of areas need the help, and what are the criteria going to be to share the funds equally among the different parts of the country? And what is the time frame, please, for that program? Thank you for your question, Madam Chabot. And I must assure you that I take the issues at Services Canada to heart, and I am going to continue working with the officials to respond to your question, because I know it is very important for everyone. In response to your question, the call for proposals is going to close on the 22nd of February. We have dealt with 3 national organizations and community organizations, the Red Cross and United Way, to manage the fund for the community organizations. We set out objectives and clear goals. We encouraged other associations to apply as well. We're going to make our decision on the 22nd of February, after which we will see which national organizations are going to manage the funds. Indeed, there is a prerequisite to have equal representation from people throughout the country, as there are so many organizations who are going to benefit from this fund, and we will share that information with the committee when we have it. Thank you. Madame Chabot. Ms. Zerillo.
Mr. Chair, and I'm just going to ask some questions around the implementation of the Community Service Recovery Fund. So I'll start by saying that urgency was definitely the key word over the last 2 years in my community, and we have relied so heavily on small, agile, and vital not-for-profits and charities in my community to get food on people's tables. So I just wanted to ask if I could get some more information about the part of the mandate letter that says advance the implementation of Community Service Recovery Fund. What does that look like, and what's the timing?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Community Service Recovery Fund is a $400 million fund that is designed to help community organizations recover, particularly modernize, how they deliver services. We saw that many throughout the pandemic had to pivot how they delivered, but we also, as you mentioned, Ms. Zerillo, saw how much our communities rely on these organizations. And so we've put out a call for proposals for organizations that can help us manage these funds nationally, much like the emergency fund that was provided at the height of the pandemic. So we've solicited proposals from the Community Foundations of Canada, the United Way, and the Red Cross, but we've also opened it up to other organizations to apply. Then each of those organizations would be responsible for managing the distribution of those funds to community level partners. And what's really important is that they can't limit the delivery of those funds to their existing partners. It has to be broad-based.
So a couple of things there, but I'm just going to ask specifically about operating funds. So I think the biggest thing that has been missing for some of these organizations is the operating funds. And I want to preface by the fact that, the NDP would rather taxation was increased, especially amongst the most wealthiest people in Canada, that we wouldn't have to rely so heavily on community groups, but we love to see community groups out in the community surviving and being able to plan ahead. So operating funds is a big piece. So is that part of this fund or that RFP, or is this strictly to distribute?
Well, a portion of them may be able to be used for operating funds in the context of the project that they are putting forward, but these are not specifically operating funds. The idea is to provide a fund, and it's something that we actually heard from community organizations. So this is in direct response to their ask, was to have access to funds to help them modernize and the delivery of their services, to adapt and to pivot to the world that we're living in today. And so in response to very extensive consultations that my predecessor led throughout the summer, that's how the structure has been funded.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Madame Zerillo. If, Minister, your schedule permits, we have two final questioners to finish the second round, 5 minutes to Mr. Ruff and 5 minutes to Mr. Coteau. So I will proceed, seeing no disagreement from the committee, to Mr. Ruff for 5 minutes.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Minister, for coming. My first couple questions will be around childcare as well, and then I'll have one if we have time with seniors, but they're fairly straightforward questions. My first question is out of the representing a rural riding in Ontario, so I acknowledge that the deal has not been signed with Ontario yet, but I'm optimistic it likely will. For rural ridings, though, across this country, out of those 250,000 spaces that you're promising to be built and ready and delivered by 2025-26, how many are going to go to rural Canada? How many are sort of dedicated, and what is the criteria? Is it for a village? I live outside of town of less than 1,000 people, and that's been my concern around this program from day one, is how is it going to help rural Canadians where there's no spaces existing right now?
It's a really excellent question. And Mr. Ruff, let me just say that I share your optimism. I do believe we will be getting an agreement with Ontario, and I'm working very hard to do that. With regards to rural Canadians, so the way that it works is we ask the provinces and territories to create a certain number of spaces, and we ask that they ensure that those spaces are reflective of the 0 to 5 population right across their province or territory. So it would be no different with Ontario to ensure that every community has access to the spaces that they need. Also within these agreements, we provide support or infrastructure and operating cost support to build out and create new spaces, whether that's in Ontario there's actually quite a bit of work that municipalities do and not-for-profits do, and so we will work with the province to ensure that no matter where you live in the province, you will have access to daycare.
So is there a percentage though, or a number tied to that 250,000?
It would be equivalent to the number of children who live in rural areas.
All right, thank you. Tied to this, and my colleague sort of asked a question though. It's because it's what works and it had to work. I'll take my brother and his wife, both essential workers throughout this pandemic. No access to daycare and childcare spots, even for essential workers, just due to the sheer demand. And they're having to depend on family members or private to help. Is there anything in this program that will be covered for those private or family members that need to work, because shift workers, et cetera, like that's a huge challenge for families right across Canada?
Yeah, so there's nothing preventing a province or territory for putting forward that kind of flexible care. I can actually tell you a bit about my own story. As parliamentarians, we work strange hours and in different places around the country. And I had the amazing opportunity to use the services of Andrew Fleck here in Ottawa, which is a not-for-profit daycare that provides flexible home care outside of hours, as well as center care. So those options are there. I know in Alberta, there are providers that are specifically dedicated for essential workers that have out of hours care. So absolutely, if they are licensed providers and the province works with them, then they can absolutely qualify for this support.
All right. Well, yeah, Minister, as a single father, 50% of the time, my daughter has got to attend more stuff here in the House of Commons over the last 2 years than likely. And I know Miss Goodridge's newborn has been here lots of times as well. All right. My final question, tied to part of your mandate letter, states that you need to work with the Minister of Seniors to provide seniors with a single point of access to a wide range of government services and benefits. Can you update the committee on the progress of simplifying those access to those benefits and services for Canadians who are frankly, have trouble navigating the internet, lack digital literacy, but even more importantly, for a lot of my riding, just do not have access to the internet?
Yes, of course. It's a really important question, and I'm working very closely with Minister Kara on this. So one of the first things that we're advancing on and hope to be able to deliver on soon is automatic enrollment for OAS and GIS, because as you mentioned, for many seniors, navigating the internet can be quite challenging, and maybe they don't even have access to the internet. And then we're also looking at the various access points that we have for seniors. So whether that is the OAS or CPP call center, whether it's 1-800-O-Canada or just general Service Canada offices, how we can best support them to make sure they have the access that they need no matter which door they open.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Ruff. Mr. Coteau for 5 minutes, and I will go to Madame Zarrillo and Madame Chabot for 1.5 minutes to wrap up, so everybody is fair.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'll share my time with MP Martinez Ferrada. I'll give her half the time if she wants to use it. I have a question, Minister, specifically about the Supporting Black Canadians Community Initiative. When I first heard about this program, I was really excited. As you know, there's a lot of disparities between Black community, and when you look at the the average numbers. In a city like mine, a very high homicide rate in the Black community, large challenges around unemployment, disproportionate rates of incarceration. It is a huge challenge in communities like Toronto and Ottawa and Windsor, many other parts of this country as well. What success have you found in this program? Because in the last budget we increased the allocation by $100 million. What success are you seeing in this program, and why did you think there was a need, or why did the government think there was a need to expand this program?
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Coteau, for that question. I think it's really important, and I think it's really important in the context of Black History Month as well. But we've also seen and heard very clearly from the Black community that this fund is important and it matters. And if we're going to get to equality, we need to have equity. And so that means that we need to have specific investments in Black Canadians and Black communities to make sure they have access and opportunities. It's come to light so very clearly over the past couple of years, even though we've known this, but there are real systemic barriers that Black Canadians face, and we need to address those. But we also need to give Black Canadians the opportunity to enable themselves and empower themselves. And so I just want to share maybe a couple of examples of success that we've seen so far. The first one is a project called Shoot for Peace, which proposes the purchase of photography equipment and software to improve the photography and arts programs serving youth and Black community within the Regent Park neighborhood in Toronto. The Olive Branch of Hope project that looks to increase awareness to older women cancer survivors by delivering virtual programs and training sessions to those at higher risk for more serious health outcomes during the pandemic. And I could go on and on and on, but there are some really incredible initiatives that are being led by Black Canadians that we're very proud to support.
Thank you so much.
Madame Ferrara for 2 minutes.
Merci, Madame.
Thank you, Madam Minister. You talked about Services Canada, and you said that the officials have done exceptional work to respond to the needs of Canadians throughout the pandemic. But before the arrival of Omicron, there were a lot of claims. Omicron just increased the number of claims that you received, and you talked about the measures that were taken. I was wondering if you could give us a few more details about the measures that were taken during the pandemic. Well, first of all, if I missed something, my colleague Cliff could add to my answer. There was a huge increase in applications during the pandemic. We doubled the number of officers that we had in the call centers. We reorganized the work among the regions to make sure that calls are answered quicker. We also hired more people on contract at Services Canada to respond to that increased demand. Services Canada is constantly trying to review the volume and adjust in order to respond to the demand. I can assure you that the officials are taking this extremely seriously, and they are keeping me up to date on a daily basis to see how we have to adjust what we are doing to meet the needs of Canadians. Cliff, I don't know if you're here, but maybe you'd like to add something? Yes, thank you, Madam Minister. The other thing I would like to add is that since the pandemic, and especially during this fiscal year, the EI processing has been better than in the past. Even if the demand was increased, it used to take up to 7 days. That was the average in the past 15 years. But this year, 88% of the time, we were able to respond in less time than in prior years. Certainly, there are a lot of applications that we have to process, but we are very proud of the results given the extenuating circumstances.
Mr. Groen. Now to Madame Chabot for a short question, Madame Chabot, and then we'll end with Madame Zarrillo. Madame Chabot.
Is it my turn, Mr. Chairman? Yes?
For 1.5 minutes.
I am stunned by the answer that we have just heard, that they are so proud of what has been done to improve the service, but we never get the exact figures. This standard of service, well, everybody is hiding behind these standards, and we know that there are a lot of them. So you can't be proud of that. I mean, what are we talking about exactly when we talk about EI? We're not talking about the pandemic. You said that you hired up to an extra 3,000 people as part of the pandemic. How many of those 3,000 people hired are still there? That's an excellent question. About 16,000 people are perhaps victims of fraud and need to be audited. Their identity has to be checked. Services Canada has already checked and verified the status of 3,000 people in the past few weeks, and they're going to do more. But what's important to note is that it's not necessarily everyone who is a legitimate beneficiary, and that is why we have to check. Madam Minister, perhaps my question wasn't clear. I was talking about the human resources that you had hired. You said that you had hired 3,000 staff during the pandemic. How many of those 3,000 are still at Services Canada? Answer, well, they're still there. Well, Madam Minister, I was told that only half are left. I think there was a little bit of miscommunication there. We doubled the number of staff in our call centers during the pandemic, and we're still living through a pandemic, so we still need to answer the calls that come in. It's important to know that there are still employees who are getting training and coming on board to respond to the needs of Canadians. I can assure you, thank you, Madam Minister.
Chabot, Madame Zarrillo, final question to you.
Thank you. And understanding that childcare is part of provincial and territorial district jurisdictions, I do want to just talk about the 250,000 new high-quality childcare spaces, and I wanted to get an understanding of whether the government sees this as for-profit spaces or not for-profit spaces.
Not for-profit spaces.
All 250? All 250,000?
There is an agreement with Alberta to have a maximum of 22,500 new spaces that would be for profit, but they would be subject to a cost control framework that we are figuring out with Alberta, and they cannot create those new spaces until such a time as that cost control framework is put into place. And there is a small amount in New Brunswick as well. However, New Brunswick already has a very robust cost control framework, but the remaining spaces around the country are not for profit.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madame Zarrillo. Thank you, Minister and officials. It was an easy meeting for the officials. As Minister, you took all the questions. Before we adjourn, I just want to advise members that Minister Hussein and Minister Kara will appear before the committee on Monday, February the 14th. So thank you, Minister. Thank you, officials, for appearing, and thank you, committee members. Meeting adjourned.